For as long as Halo has existed, it has always been looked at as an Xbox game. And while that is true throughout its history, Xbox has been the main platform of Halo, Halo actually has a pretty interesting history on PC. And while most PC players saw a huge gap in Halo on the platform from 2007 all the way to 2019, during that time frame there was actually some really cool games and projects that sort of laid the groundwork for the return of the franchise to PC in 2019 when the Master Chief Collection was eventually ported. Halo would see its first foray into the living room in 2001, when Halo CE would make its way to the original Xbox, and it was immediately adored by fans. However, Halo wasn't initially planned as an Xbox exclusive or even a first-person shooter like it would become. Halo was shown to the public for the first time at Macworld on July 21st, 1999, where Jason Jones would take the stage and show off their version of Halo, a third-person sci-fi shooter, which was then planned to come to the Mac operating system. A version of Halo that was mostly just lost to time until recently when a group of modders working with 343, known as the Dig Site team, brought not only that map of Macworld to life, but also many other cut weapons, armors, and various enemies seen not only in that video, but also other cut content from Halo CE and Halo 2. Seeing this cool new sci-fi based shooter and knowing that they needed some killer apps, Microsoft would acquire Bungie on June 19th in the year 2000, repurposing Halo CE as a launch title for their upcoming Xbox console. Because of this though, Halo CE wouldn't launch on PC at the same time as the console release until later on in 2003, when a company that you might know of by the name of Gearbox Software, with the help of Westlake Interactive, would release their port of Halo CE dubbed the Gearbox port. This release would drop on September 30th, 2003, and for the most part played like its Xbox counterpart. Though if you've been around Halo for a while, you will know the Gearbox port has been frequently criticized for inaccuracies in both weapon behavior and visuals. And funnily enough, this Gearbox port was actually used as the basis for the Master Chief Collection version, bringing all those issues back to life. It is worth noting that over the years, 343 has made improvements to the Gearbox port on the Master Chief Collection, but many CE fanatics would still say that they prefer the OG Xbox version. Now, Halo CE PC would also lack the ability to play split-screen multiplayer or play co-op campaign. However, there was one major improvement that it had over the Xbox version, and that was the ability to easily play online multiplayer through the use of a server browser, something the Xbox didn't have, as you couldn't play online multiplayer on Xbox unless you did some form of system link. The PC version of the game would also include some additional content in the form of 6 multiplayer maps. You had Timberland, Death Island, the map that starts with a G that I cannot pronounce, Danger Canyon, Ice Fields, and Infinity, along with also getting some previously cut weapons and vehicles like the Fuel Rod Gun, Flamethrower, Banshee, and Rocket Hog. Now, while review scores aren't always useful, I do think that they show an okay job showing the general reception of a game at the time, and in Halo CE's case, they actually do a fantastic job showing some of the disappointments in the PC port, with the Xbox game receiving a fantastic, amazing 97 on Metacritic, with the PC port a few years later receiving only an 83. Now, this isn't a terrible score by any means, but it's one that shows the many issues that the port had, especially in regards to performance, which is something a lot of the reviews criticized. Back then in 2003, you had to have a very strong PC to run Halo CE effectively. Halo CE PC would also include a fun piece of Halo history with the Halo PC demo that allowed players a free trial of the game, where they could either play the campaign mission The Silent Cartographer or the iconic Blood Gulch map in multiplayer on either Free-for-All, Slayer, or Capture the Flag. While this may seem like slim pickings that players would bore of quickly, countless Halo players would spend tens of hours, if not even more, on this demo. This original release though isn't what really lives on as the legacy of Halo CE on PC, as in the following year on May 5th, 2004, Gearbox Software would release Halo Custom Edition, which was a multiplayer-only expansion for the PC port of the previous year. Custom Edition's big new feature was the Halo Editing Kit, allowing players to create both multiplayer and single-player mods for Halo CE, along with an update to the netcode of the game. Custom Edition modding would go on to foster a pretty sizable community for many years to come, only recently dwindling down with the addition of mod tools to the Master Chief Collection. But some of the biggest and most famous Halo mods to date originated in Halo Custom Edition, with things like Cursed Halo that everyone has seen, or even huge campaign overhauls like like SPV3. These were two very different spins on campaign mods for the game, one of the wacky cursed variety, and the other one a huge expansion of the game's sandbox with tons of added vehicles, weapons, enemies, and even fully reworked levels. Both of these mods over the years have received tons of praise, but Custom Edition wasn't just these big campaign overhauls, as the server browser would make it a breeze to host modded multiplayer maps, leading to many popular multiplayer mods ranging from all sorts of things like new maps to full overhauls for the multiplayer, turning it into things like Metroid or even Star Wars. While the population of Halo Custom Edition and the amount of new mods for it today isn't that big, for a long time Custom Edition was a very healthy and populated game that stuck around for almost 2 decades. Halo's next official foray on PC would come 4 years later, the same year that Halo 3 would take the world by storm. This PC title though would not be Halo 3, but rather a PC port for Halo 2 with Halo 2 Vista, using the dreaded Games for Windows platform. This time around Gearbox would not return, but rather a company by the name of Hired Gun, who was formed to bring Halo 2 to the Windows Vista platform. This new studio was comprised of team members who prior to this had worked on a variety of games like Forza Motorsport, Heroes of Might and Magic, NFL Fever, and Brute Force. Funnily, or sadly though, this would be the only title that we would see from Hired Gun. Halo 2 Vista would originally aim to release on May 8th of 2007, however it would experience a short delay, pushing it back to May 22nd due to issues with the installation experience and some other technical issues. This though wouldn't be the only delay, as the game would be additionally pushed back to May 31st of 2007 due to, oddly enough, partial nudity found in the Halo 2 Vista map editing kit. Now Halo 2 Vista for the most part was Halo 2, but on Windows Vista, though it did feature reworked graphics including high detail textures along with the support for high screen resolutions past the 480p of the original Xbox version. One big addition to Halo 2 Vista was the inclusion of the Halo 2 editing kit, which was a map editor that players could use to create their own maps, with an example literally called Example shipping with the game as a reference point for map makers. Halo 2 Vista would also include the new developer-made maps District and Uplift, though oddly enough wouldn't include Desolation or Tombstone from the Xbox version of the game. The game would go on to receive fairly middling reception in sales, with one major contributing factor just the fact that it was on Windows Vista, which many PC users at the time didn't want to upgrade to, especially if it was just to play Halo 2. But the game also lacked features like online co-op and would see its server browser functionality significantly nerfed compared to the prior Halo CE PC port. Many reviewers were also just left underwhelmed, as while Halo 2 was revolutionary in 2004, 3 years later on the PC, it would feel quite dated compared to many of the modern shooters releasing on the PC platform at that time. Despite all this though, Halo 2 Vista would still garner a small hardcore community who would continue to play the game all the way until 343 would shut these servers down in July of 2015, leaving the game at that time unplayable online. This would be the case until later that year in November, a mod called Project Cartographer would launch that once again allowed the game to be playable online and actually remains playable to this day, and it even continues to receive updates aiming to improve the game in various ways. While the player base for Project Cartographer isn't huge today, you can pop in on any given night and find a handful of lobbies to choose from that are all playing a variety of different modes. It's also worth noting that while Halo 2 now exists on PC with the Master Chief Collection, many of its hardcore players do actually prefer Project Cartographer due to the various fixes the team has made to the game over the years to be as true to the original Xbox game as possible. Similar to Halo CE using the Gearbox port as the basis for Halo CE in the Master Chief Collection, Halo 2 is similar using the Halo 2 Vista port as the basis for the MCC, and a point of contention for many of those Halo 2 fans, as things like hit registration are a common complaint levied at the MCC version of Halo 2. Following Halo 2 Vista, Halo's ventures on PC would take a hiatus, besides the mobile game ports of Halo Spartan Assault in 2013 and Halo Spartan Strike in 2015, both of which were developed by Vanguard Games. These two games were top-down twin-stick shooters, primarily developed for the mobile phones, featuring short missions one could play in small bursts. Neither game reviewed overly well, but both were praised for replicating the aesthetic and feel of Halo in a much different genre. More exciting than the mobile ports, in 2015 a free-to-play online-only Halo game would also hit the markets of Russia in an exclusive closed alpha test. This game would be known as Halo Online and would continue development for the next 8 or so months, getting a closed beta at the end of 2015. All was going well for this project. Russian players or non-Russian players willing to put in a little extra effort could try out the game in all its microtransaction glory. And to make the game, developers Saber Interactive had actually taken the Halo 3 ODST engine and attempted to optimize it for performance on lower-end PCs. Running on a modified version of the Halo 3 ODST engine, developer Saber Interactive's goal with Halo Online was to include a slew of classic weapons and vehicles from throughout the franchise, with several new weapons to be implemented into the game. 8 fan-favorite maps from Halo 3 would be directly ported into Halo Online, including maps like Guardian, Valhalla, and Sandtrap, and there would also be some remakes in the game and completely new maps. Many of these remakes and new maps, along with never-released maps, have actually made their way into the Master Chief Collection in a variety of ways. Newer, fully remade maps would include Diamondback, which is basically just Avalanche, but a desert instead of snowy; Edge, which was a Forerunner-themed original map, later ported to the MCC; Icebox, an ice-themed remake of Turf, again later ported to MCC; Reactor, an original Big Team Battle map; and Waterfall, which was actually never playable in Halo Online, but was made for the game and later ported to the Master Chief Collection. Other maps like a remake of Lockout, along with a map known as Skybridge, were never released into Halo Online, but they were brought over to the Master Chief Collection with that remake of Lockout through the mod tools later on, once 343 provided a pack, including some of these maps and other cut maps from various Halo games. Similar to Halo 4, Halo Online would allow players to customize their loadouts, including armor, weapons, and abilities, with several variations of weapons available, like increased damage, accuracy, and rate of fire. Tied to this loadout system was something the game called Professions, which actually dictated your starting equipment, primary weapon, and the armor that you could select from. These were Assault, Sharpshooter, and Tactical. One odd choice that the game went with that was actually directly related to those professions was in the form of armor customization, where players could only select whole armor sets instead of individual pieces. Both Elites and Spartans had several armor choices that actually had effects on gameplay, with things like higher melee damage or increased radar range. Unfortunately though, news would hit in August of 2016 that the game was being cancelled, with stories that Saber had basically been left in the dark for months by 343. At this point, Halo Online was dead, and our dreams of playing it in the West shattered, until a group of modders began working on a project known as ElDewrito. This was a mod using the assets of Halo Online to bring a community-focused Halo PC to players with a very similar playstyle to Halo 3. ElDewrito's big 0.6 update would actually play very similar to Halo 3 in its vanilla form, with one main difference being the fact that the bullet projectile speed was actually much quicker, effectively making the game hit scan, unlike the original Halo 3 that had that very slow projectile speed. Besides that though, ElDewrito brought some really nice additions, like the much improved Forge that up to that point was basically the strongest Forge we had seen besides Halo 5. ElDewrito also included a variety of customizable weapon models and UI elements through the use of a mod tool called FMM, and it's worth noting that while the vanilla experience was that of a Halo 3-esque playstyle, server hosts had the option to include many of the remnants of Halo Online, like armor abilities, sprint, the DMR, or all the various weapon variants if they wished. This would lead to a really strong variety in game modes and maps played between all the different servers, as server hosts had all these different tools at their arsenal, while still retaining that very close Halo 3 style gameplay if one wanted to just host that. For the most part, the audience for ElDewrito was pretty small. That was until a trailer would go out for the 0.6 update, that infamous update that everyone remembers. And the response to this trailer was pure excitement by not only the hardcore audience that had been following, but also Halo fans all over on PC would become aware of this project. With excitement brewing, the update would drop in April in 2018, reaching 12,000 concurrent players, which isn't too bad for something that spread purely off word of mouth. Unfortunately though, this is where the good part of the story ends, because 4 days after the release, Microsoft would end the fun. Due to the fact that ElDewrito was built off of Halo Online using the assets owned by Microsoft, it was always going to be in a very gray area of IP law that was basically at the mercy of the IP holder. And in this case, Microsoft and 343 Industries would effectively shut down ElDewrito. Around the same time, content creators on Twitch like Summit1G, who had been streaming the game, would see their channels receive DMCA claims for playing ElDewrito on stream. And at this point to the mainstream, ElDewrito is effectively dead. The team behind it would stop working on the project, and the files would no longer be openly shared, making getting the files to play ElDewrito much harder, especially if you were just a casual fan. At the time though, it seemed like at the very least, ElDewrito sent Microsoft a message, and that was that we wanted Halo back on PC, and Phil Spencer would even put out a tweet on the topic. Here he would tweet, "This is important. As we look ahead, we're very excited about the prospects of an official classic Halo experience making its way to PC, and we hope to be able to partner with the ElDewrito team and broader mod and content creation community." Many to this day still speculate that ElDewrito is what pushed Microsoft to bring the Master Chief Collection to PC later that year, or maybe they already had it planned and that's why ElDewrito got shut down. It is worth noting though that at that time in 2018, all the way until today, if you're able to find the files, ElDewrito is still playable. Though today, playable is in a little bit of quotation marks, as finding active servers can be a bit of a struggle. From here we need to rewind time a little bit, as while ElDewrito was still brewing, 2016 would also see multiple other Halo PC entries, with the first being Halo 5 Forge. In 2015, we would get Halo 5, and it would release as an Xbox exclusive, similar to the titles before it. However, the following year, on September 8th, 2016, Halo 5 Forge would actually drop on Windows 10, allowing players to get a very limited version of Halo 5 on PC. This product was free and allowed players to forge maps and play custom games, eventually adding in the custom game browser once that was also added on Xbox. The game included mouse and keyboard support, though it feels horrible to aim with, and up to 4K resolution capability. Halo 5 Forge never went on to be anything huge, and would be an application that was riddled with performance and stability issues. But it did allow players to create maps on PC if they wished that could be published and played on Xbox. Or it also just allowed the brave souls who wanted to play customs on PC to do so, frequently hosting lobbies until MCC PC would release. Halo 5 Forge, not even mentioning the lack of matchmaking or campaign though, is a very middling PC port, with not only horrible optimization, but also a lack of common PC features like the ability to unlock your frame rate or change your FOV. Despite the underwhelming nature, even this little taste was something that us PC Halo fans would check out, and we would once again see the Halo community take this PC port and improve upon it. In 2017, a modder by the name of GameCheat13 would release the Exuberant mod tool that allowed players to change video settings, change your FOV and other UI related features, spawn AI in offline Forge, mess with weapon tags, and customize your character, and much more. For PC players of Halo 5, this mod tool would become a must download, and the higher FOV would make Halo 5 feel like a totally different game. While Halo 5 Forge never supported the communities or even the modability and customizability of Halo Custom Edition, Cartographer, or even ElDewrito, it still garnered a niche audience on PC who showed up to literally do nothing but play custom games against each other on a nightly basis. Shortly after Halo 5 Forge, we would see another entry of Halo on PC with the re-release of the 2009 console-based real-time strategy game Halo Wars. Halo Wars Definitive Edition would release in December of 2016 to both Windows and Xbox One, and was developed by Behavior Interactive. The game would include some graphics updates, along with the ability to play on mouse and keyboard on PC, new achievements, and all of the downloadable content for the game. While Definitive Edition would release on both Steam and the Windows Store, along with Xbox, the two PC versions were not cross-compatible with each other or the Xbox version, leading to very fractured multiplayer player bases depending on where people bought the game. Overall, the product would review okay, with many PC-specific reviewers mentioning how it was mostly just a console port with a high price tag. Halo Wars Definitive Edition would go on to see a peak player count on Steam of about 3,200 players, nothing near the player counts we would see later on on with some of the FPS titles. The game though would see a decent modding scene over the years, with mods that included things like improvements or even new leaders or factions altogether being created for the game, with mods still being put out as recently as this year. Following the port of Halo Wars, Halo would see its first concurrent PC release ever, and that would be with Halo Wars 2 on February 21st of 2017. The title, developed by Creative Assembly, would release on PC and Xbox One at the same time, though sadly even to this day Halo Wars 2 is a Windows Store exclusive. Reviews for Halo Wars 2 would be generally favorable, though they would end up lower on PC than Xbox One just due to the lack of depth and gameplay that Halo Wars 2 would provide compared to its competition on PC, something that is less of the case on Xbox, where real-time strategy games are much less common. Sadly though, Halo Wars 2 wouldn't sell all that amazingly, but it is absolutely loved by the Halo Wars community, even though there is a little bit of unrest, as 343 seems to have forgotten Halo Wars even exists. Being on PC, Halo Wars 2 would see some slight modding interest, but not nearly as much as the original Halo Wars, though today there is still desire to see the game brought over to Steam. After this, we move forward to 2019, where ever since the effective shutdown of ElDewrito, rumors have been swirling that the Master Chief Collection was going to make its way to PC. And on March 12, 2019, 343 would announce to the world that the Master Chief Collection would in fact be coming to PC, and it would now be including Halo Reach, which was not included in the original release on Xbox in 2014. This was huge, as now every Halo game besides Halo 5's campaign, along with, multiplayer matchmaking, would be fully playable on PC. Now we all know how this went. The Xbox release of the Master Chief Collection is an absolute disaster, and it will probably go down in history as one of the worst AAA releases in all of gaming. But this time around in 2019 on PC, while not perfect, the release was much better, with the main issues being the slow rollout of titles, along with early issues adapting the game to higher frame rates, though this was eventually fixed. And this time matchmaking actually worked, so it's already one huge step above the original Xbox release. Starting at the end of 2019, 343 had begun to release the Halo titles, starting with Halo Reach, and then going concurrently until finally Halo 4 would release nearly a year later in November of 2020. Following this, the Master Chief Collection would receive a variety of additional seasons that added some new cosmetics to the various games, although it's mostly Halo 3, along with porting some ODST weapons like the silenced SMG and pistol into Halo 3, and adding in some new game modes like Escalation Slayer. We also got things like Flood Firefight added to Halo 3 ODST. The Master Chief Collection would also restore some of those lost Halo Online maps we talked about earlier, and bring them into Halo 3 officially, with Waterfall, Edge, and Icebox all making their way into the game throughout its various seasonal updates. Along with this trickled out over time, all of the MCC titles would see full mod tools similar to the scale of the ones that we saw with Halo Custom Edition all the way back in 2005. These mod tools have empowered the community to create all sorts of crazy campaign mods and multiplayer mods alike that still see new releases and hype to this day in 2023. We would even eventually get Steam Workshop support, making it much easier to install and manage mods than it originally was. 343 would also partner with the community directly to restore a ton of cut content from Halo CE and Halo 2 with a project titled Dig Site, restoring things like the original Macworld level that we talked about all the way at the start of the video, and various other maps and other pieces of lost content. You can even play that Macworld level today in the Master Chief Collection co-op with a friend if you want. Now there are some criticisms of the mod tools, most notably the lack of mods on Xbox, and also the lack of custom game browser support for mods, making it hard to find lobbies playing multiplayer mods for the various titles. Today, Halo MCC is in a very solid condition, especially compared to its state on Xbox for years, but even compared to how it released on PC, it's in a very solid spot. It even supports a player base in the mid to high 4,000s on PC, with the ability to play most of the multiplayer titles in the collection online, especially since it's crossplay. though some of the lesser played titles are starting to see some pretty long queue times or just the inability to find matches in certain game modes. While the Master Chief Collection on PC sold very well, one does have to wonder, had it launched complete with all the titles and the later release mod tools, if it could have retained more of that initial 161,000 concurrent players that showed up on day one to play Halo Reach. A question us Halo fans can only speculate on. Following the Master Chief Collection, Halo would continue to support its PC fanbase as the release of Halo Infinite in 2021 would release concurrently on both Xbox consoles and PC, absolutely blowing up on PC, with the release of the game hitting 272,000 concurrent players on Steam alone. Sadly, for many of the reasons that we've seen in a billion videos though, that player base would quickly fall off on both PC and console, today averaging about 9,000 peak concurrent players, which has actually been in a slight uptick in recent months. Early on in Halo Infinite, we would see modders try their best to create fun Halo Infinite mods, but due to the lack of mod tools or really any mod support, these would be pretty small in comparison to its Master Chief Collection counterpart. The most popular method of Halo Infinite modding is through the use of a program called the Infinite Runtime Tag Viewer, or IRTV for short, where one can basically change tags on the fly, though these can only be used in offline campaign or offline multiplayer modes. Sadly though, interest in these mods has fallen off, with as of writing this script, the last mod posted to Halo Customs was a Mandalorian ambient blaster all the way back in January of this year. Halo Infinite's PC port has also been heavily criticized for the lack of optimization on PC, with a lot of frustration pointed towards the fact that 343 prior to launch claimed Halo Infinite was the first modern Halo title built from the ground up for PC, and that PC would be a first-class experience. While today this has gotten better, the launch of this game would make PC players feel anything but first class. Today, Halo as a whole isn't nearly as big as it once was, and likewise the PC community today is much smaller than it was around the launch of the Master Chief Collection or even Halo Infinite. But regardless, it's still there, and the passion for good Halo games persists on both console and PC. Before we wrap up though, there is a whole selection that I didn't really fit chronologically into the script, and that is the Halo fan games, overhaul mods, and some of the bigger Halo MCC mods that I want to talk about. And while I won't name every single one because there are so many, over the years Halo fans would not only mod other games to include the Halo franchise, we would also see fans create their own Halo games from the ground up. The first one we have is Installation 01. So Installation 01 was announced to the public back in 2017, but it actually began development as early as 2014 and has gone through numerous engine changes in the time. Now this is a multiplayer only Halo fan game that today is on Unreal Engine 5. However, it began its roots on the Unity engine, eventually seeing the original lead developer, the Chunkier Bean, leave in 2021. Now at this point, many sort of thought the Installation 01 project was dead and that we were never going to get a playable version in the public. But despite that, quietly in the background, they have been working this whole time, and there continues to be movement on that front again, and they've even begun teasing a little bit here and there publicly, along with some blog posts about their move to Unreal Engine 5. Now I said Installation 01 has been through multiple engines, so it originally started on the Unity engine, but roughly when the Chunkier Bean left, they would actually move it over to the Cry engine, which we'll actually mention more later because there's another Halo fan project that also at one point used the Cry engine. Now they wouldn't decide to stick with the Cry engine though, and would actually move to their own custom engine that they called the Plasma engine. Now according to Agoat, who is the current lead for Installation 01, the Plasma engine was really shaping up nicely, however it didn't totally align with their timelines for the project, and so they decided to move over to Unreal Engine 5, which is the engine that they're working on today. So that is 4 different engines for one Halo fan project. Now like I mentioned, this has never had a publicly playable build, but there has been plenty of gameplay footage that's been shared on YouTube throughout the years, throughout a variety of its states. Today, Installation 01 still has no release date, but they are still working and they are still talking about it, and I hope to one day get to play it. Now this next point actually applies to the rest of this whole section, but since this is a fan game using the Halo IP, it is completely unmonetized, and because of of that, it does have 343's blessing, so we shouldn't see anything like ElDewrito where the entire game gets shut down. Now there's a little bit of gray area there, as there is one project that we're going to talk about in this section that somehow has been charging for stuff. I have no clue how, I don't know the legalese, and I'm not a lawyer, but most of these projects are purely passion projects, which is why the timelines on them end up so long. Obviously these people have to go to school or have full-time jobs, and for many of them this is purely a hobby or purely just out of love for the Halo IP. It's also worth noting that unlike ElDewrito, which reused a bunch of the Halo Online assets, these Halo fan games make all of their assets from the ground up. Now if you guys want a deeper dive in Installation 01, maybe it's whole on video, I could try and get with a goat and get something much grander in scale, but for now, keep an eye out on it. They've been teasing some stuff, and I hope we get to see more soon. Next up is Contingency, which is another multiplayer only Halo fan game, this one running on Unreal Engine 4, though it weirdly enough actually began its development on the CryEngine. Yes, the engine for Crysis. Actually one of the oldest Halo fan games that began development over a decade ago. But at that time, it was actually a game called Galaxy of Combat, which is a Halo fan game focused on 32v32 gameplay, sort of like a Halo Battlefield. Now this game was originally slated to release in spring of 2012, though clearly that window was missed. Eventually this would be repackaged and retitled into Contingency, at the time switching from Unreal Engine to CryEngine, and then eventually later switching back to Unreal Engine 4. Now in November of 2021, Contingency would finally release to the public, though it did have some test flights prior to this. I'm not totally sure what the state of Contingency is today. The last update on their website was November of 2022, but I actually did get to play this one back in 2021, and it's pretty fun. There's like a mixture of map remakes and unique maps, and it gives you pretty grounded, standard Halo gameplay. I had a decent time playing it in 2021, but obviously by the time this finally released, you could just play MCC on PC, which I think took a lot of hype and momentum away from some of these multiplayer only Halo fan games, and especially back when I played it in 2021, it was still pretty rough around the edges, though I'd love to see some new updates for Contingency. The next Halo fan game we're going to talk about is Glassed, and originally this one actually began development in Unity, similar to Installation 01, though it would later switch to Unreal Engine 4, and development for this one started in early 2014. Now unlike Contingency and Installation 01, this one is actually aiming to be both a single player and a multiplayer game. Now other than a trailer, I haven't seen a whole ton of this game, nor have I ever played it, but the multiplayer for Glass is more of that classic Halo gameplay, self-describing as a mix of Halo CE and Quake with none of those modern gimmicks or trends. The single player is aiming to be an open world Halo experience, citing Mass Effect, Gothic, and Freelancer as inspirations. Now, like I said, nothing has been publicly playable for Glass, though we have seen gameplay snippets over the years, with a longer gameplay trailer releasing last year during the VKMT mod showcase, where you could see some multiplayer gameplay. Now, the development team behind Glass is actually pretty quiet compared to some of the other Halo fan games, but I did have an interaction with the main developer, Bernie, over on Twitter today, and it seems like the project is still moving forward. They're just keeping their heads down and working away. So hopefully we eventually see this one and it ends up being pretty cool. Now, the next Halo fan game we're going to talk about, and I'm going to kind of start to go a little bit faster, is Branching Sickness. This one hasn't released or anything, but it's a flood horror game, and from what we've seen, it looks pretty dang cool. And those are like the main, like, from the ground up Halo fan games. There's also been a ton of huge Halo mods over the years. You know, SPV3 was a huge one, Cursed Halo was a huge one, you had Silent Cartographer Evolved, and there's been so many huge Halo mods for not only Custom Edition back in the day, but also MCC. A modder by the name of Abyssquick has brought a bunch of the Battlefront maps into Halo 3, which is a ton of fun to play. But if you're looking for like huge full-scale mods, there are two that are in development and could absolutely blow us away if they end up being cool. Now, not a whole lot is known on either of these publicly, but the first one is Halo Legacies, and this one's actually being worked on by the former SPV3 team, and it's a whole new open world Halo fan game built for the Master Chief Collection. It's going to have single player and multiplayer, and from what I've been told from the lead developer, if it ends up being anywhere near their vision, it is going to be absolutely insane. The next one is Halo Reborn, and this is an upcoming custom Halo campaign, upcoming in quotation marks. I have no clue when these are releasing or if they'll release. That's the one problem with Halo fan games and these huge mods, is when you have people working on these out of passion and as a hobby, sometimes it takes forever for them to be completed, you know, because it's not their full-time gig. But anyways, Halo Reborn aims to follow the full story of the Halo trilogy, but retelling it through entirely reimagined missions, environments, and encounters in one unified experience. So it's all going to be done on one engine, one game as a continuous story. If this one ends up hitting its vision and you can play the entire Halo trilogy in one game, oh my god, that's going to be so cool. There's also a Halo fan game called Delta Ring. Now this one's actually on Roblox, and I know you just rolled your eyes, but actually it's a lot of fun. It was created in December of 2020, and it uses a combinations of weapons and maps from a variety of Halo games and includes many game modes from Halo. The gameplay is basically Roblox classic Halo, and I've actually put more hours into it than I'd like to admit, and it's pretty fun. Next up, I want to talk about a studio called Doberman Studios, as they've released a variety of different Halo fan games, with the first one being Halo Zero. Now this one was all the way back in 2005, and it's a fan-made 2D side-scroller kind of shoot-'em-up game, and it's actually pretty cool. Following Halo Zero, Doberman would actually go to create 2 more games, Spartan Runner, which was a Halo-themed endless runner, and then Spartan Firefight, which is the newest one, and probably the most sophisticated of all the games they've made. Again, this is a 2D side-scroller shoot-'em-up style game with a ton of content, and it actually still gets updates to this day. Well, now here's where I'm going to say, like, fan games usually can't make money, but somehow Spartan Firefight has like microtransactions on mobile phones because it's on iOS and Android. At one point it was on Steam, but it got removed, so maybe they caught on there. And it's even on Xbox somehow, but weird legalese aside, Spartan Firefight's actually kind of worth checking out. It's pretty fun. So that kind of wraps up like the big Halo fan games. If I forgot one, mention it in the comments below. I'd love to research more of them or play them if they've been released. Any Halo fan game that's playable, hit me up. I would love to play it. Now, Halo fans have also done like full Halo conversions for other games. I think the biggest one is probably a game called Sins of the Prophets, which is a total conversion mod for Sins of a Solar Empire. And this one actually went into beta all the way back in 2013. And in 2021, they actually announced that they're working on a sequel. It's made by a studio called Choke Point Games. And if you like Sins of a Solar Empire or you like Halo, you should probably check it out. There's also been some cool Doom mods. There's a thing called Halo Doom for the original Doom, where you can play multiplayer against a bunch of bots. It's got like 15 classic multiplayer maps. It started all the way back in 2006, and it honestly looks really cool. There's also Doom 2553, which is a Halo conversion mod for Doom 3. Now, I've never played Doom 3, nor have I played this mod, but from what I've seen, it looks pretty cool. Another Halo overhaul mod is one by the name of Operation Trebuchet. This one released in 2016, and it allows you more of a tactical milsim Halo experience, and there's even entire communities that do like milsim roleplay, if that's something you're into, all with that Halo universe theme. Or if roleplay isn't your thing, there's also just like cool custom campaigns that have been created by various different people. Last but not least, the last one we're going to talk about is a game called Halo Revamped. This is a playable Halo game on the PSP. It was a homebrew PSP game on the Kurok PSP and Quake PSP engine, and it has multiplayer. You can play versus bots on a variety of maps, and even has Firefight, and at some point was even ported to the DS. Now obviously a Halo game on the PSP isn't going to be the most intensive game, but if you're a Halo fan and you want to see a cool recreation of Halo with kind of the restrictions of the PSP, Halo Revamped is pretty cool. It's kind of hard to get your hands on today, but I did make a video on it a while back if you just want to see it and not bother trying to figure out how to play it, but it's pretty cool. You should check it out. Now these above are just a handful of fan games and conversion mods that I've personally picked out, but the list is endless, and that doesn't even get into the many amazing mods for the various Halo games itself that I didn't mention, including tons of campaign overhauls or even totally custom campaign levels. The Halo community as a whole makes some of the coolest things in gaming, and I'm convinced that regardless of what happens with the mainline FPS titles, Halo fans will continue to have the franchise live on through their own projects, both mods and fan games alike. There are so many amazing mods for both the Master Chief Collection and other games that I didn't mention by name in this video, mostly because chronicling every Halo major mod would just take probably years, especially just custom edition alone. I would be here for hours talking about all the custom edition mods. So if I forgot a specific mod that you really like, just throw it in the comments below so people can check it out. There are also many cool mods on the horizon too for the Master Chief Collection and other games, and there's a group known as VKMT that does these really cool showcases of a lot of the community mods from time to time, though I think the last showcase was in September of 2022, so I don't know if one is planned for this year, but hopefully there is. I hope you feel this video did Halo on PC justice, as I tried to touch on basically every major Halo Halo PC release that we have got. It was a lot of fun diving through memory lane and even learning a little bit about some of these games that I didn't previously know. But that's gonna do it for the video. A huge shout out to the patrons who make videos like this possible, and I'll see you all next time.